Here's a Triton project we've got that's nearing completion, and I've tried to hold back from making this video. There's still lots of work to do on this bike. Obviously it's not a monoshock bike. We got the other one there. There's still a lot of work to do on it, but it's complete enough, I think, for me to say what I'm going to try and say here. Now, this is going to be a Norton framed, Triumph engined Triton cafe racer. Note the term cafe racer and look at the bike. A lot of people seem to be having trouble or difficulty understanding what a cafe racer is these days. So I'm going to try and explain. We'll have a look at this one and I'll try and explain what a cafe racer, at least in my mind, should be like, and some of the qualities it should possess. Now we'll go around here and have a look at the front of it first. Now we've got a front mudguard for it, and that's going to go on. That's going to stop rain and muck and crap getting flung up at the front of the engine and into the rider's face. I know, because I've ridden bikes without mudguards. Also, note the headlamp. It's not down so far that it's nearly rubbing on the tyre. It's neat and high up out the way, so that when the suspension bottoms, when you're braking hard, it still won't touch the tyre or the mudguard that's going to be there. Now the line of the headlamp, I like to see the top of the headlamp just a little touch above the top of the fuel tank, which it is there, and if we wanted to, we could move it up. It's not down here rubbing that thing called the tyre. Also, it's a 7-inch headlamp. It's not a 2-inch torch nailed onto the front of the bike. It's a proper headlamp, and it looks the part, and it looks like a cafe racer's headlamp. So by the time we got the mudguard on there, and with these clip-ons, it's going to look like a cafe racer. Note that it's got clip-ons as well. It hasn't got motocross bars on it. Right, these are clip-ons, and these are what cafe racers wear. So we got the front mudguard on it. It's going to keep the front of the engine clean and stop the crap going into the rider's eyes and whatever, because it's actually going to get ridden. Exhaust pipes, they're bare, they're not wrapped in anything. Now if you want to put a silly little headlamp there and wrap your exhausts, and maybe stick a baby poo brown seat on it as well while you're at it, and some big, don't forget the big chunky tyres that look like they've come off World War II or earlier lorry. Right, these tyres are on it because it's going to steer and handle to the best of its ability, not look like a tractor. Moving round further back then, you see we're also going to have a rear mudguard, which is going to come round to here, and we've got the oil tank there as well. But the mudguard is also going to come around and finish down here. That'll stop the rear wheel chucking all sorts of crap into the carburetors, which have got open bell mouths, but they're not running direct in the firing line of a naked rear wheel, which has probably got another lorry tyre on it, flinging all sorts of rubbish into the engine and wiping it out in perhaps 5 or 10 miles. Because in Britain, believe it or not, it rains now and again, and even if you don't intend going out in a wet, sometimes you can get caught out in it. So all these little things are going to help. We've got matte black silencers there. The reason we got matte black is because they're structurally sound, but the chrome was rusty, so that's been cleaned off, and we've got high temperature black paint on there. What else can I tell you about the bike? Oh yeah, look at it. The rear end isn't 9 feet up in the air. A lot of bikes today seem to have a gap of about a foot nearly, or perhaps even more, between the top of the rear wheel and the underside of the seat. I don't know what that's all about. Perhaps you're going motocrossing or something on your knobbly tyres on your cafe racer, I don't know. But this bike is going to be built to be used on the road and give the rider the option, if he wants to be a naughty boy and ride at speed, he'll be able to safely and securely on a fine handling machine that not only looks the part but will be the part. You won't be scrambling this around the fields on your knobbly tyres that you've taken off a lorry. I suppose perhaps the brown seats on some of them would match the mud that they'll fling about. One more thing that this bike's not going to have, there won't be any silly number boards on it, because it's not going to be a race bike. We've got race bikes and they've got number boards on them. They have to have them so that people marshalling the race know which bike's where and in what position in the race and so on. We are not going to do that because we don't want this to look like something that should be going up and down on a pole on a fairground ride. So it's not going to have silly number boards and pretend to be something it isn't. On that note, I think I'll call it a day with my Mr. Misery Guts act and just say there we are. That, ladies and gentlemen, will be what a cafe racer ought to look like. Fuel tank shape is probably just personal preference, and it actually happens to be a spare one we had for one of our race bikes, but it fits the bike, the lines, the height of it, the size of it relative to the seat, the headlamp, all that, everything's to scale and in proportion and fits together quite well. I'm not saying, not trying to make out it's the best looking cafe racer bike, because everybody's got their own opinions which they're entitled to. But it is a cafe racer, it's not something else that someone has decided to call a cafe racer. And whatever those bikes are, with their brown seats, fat lorry tyres, no mud guards, tiny headlamps, scrambles handlebars, I reckon that somebody should be given a prize for thinking of a name for them, because they really are something else entirely rather than a cafe racer like this. Thank you.